Leon Sullivan, famed civil rights leader and pioneer of the employment equality movement for Black Americans. His work was integral in providing opportunities to further economic freedom in a racially unjust economy. And the recipients of the Leon Sullivan Economic Justice Award are John Rogers, co-CEO and CIO, Ariel Investments, and Jim Reynolds, Chairman and CEO, Loop Capital.
Thank you, Reverend Jackson, for this tremendous honor. It means an awful lot to me. Leon Sullivan has been a long-time role model and a hero for me as someone who's been fortunate enough to be in the boardroom. Leon Sullivan showed all of us the importance of standing up and fighting for economic justice, fighting for social justice once we're in the boardroom. Then those of us who've had the privilege to sit in the boardroom, we have a responsibility to speak out and speak up and make good trouble in the spirit of the late Congressman John Lewis. As you know, Reverend Jackson, we've taken Leon Sullivan's principles, and every year at our Black Corporate Directors Conference, we have the conscience of the conference speak on Friday night. We are so privileged to have you come and speak one Friday evening and remind us of our responsibilities that we have in the boardroom. At the same time, we've had Andy Young, we've had Congressman Lewis, we've had leaders like that to remind us that Leon Sullivan's principles are as relevant today as they were when he was on the board of General Motors. So this is a tremendous honor. Thank you, Rainbow Push, and thank you, Reverend Jackson. You continue to be my role model and my inspiration every day as I work to make a difference for our community inside the boardroom.
Fred Gray, former member of the Alabama State House of Representatives and attorney, Fred Gray notably represented Rosa Parks during the Montgomery bus boycotts. His role as a defender for civil rights led to justice for the victims of the Tuskegee syphilis experiments, and his work with the NAACP can be noted as the spark of the civil rights movement as we know it. And the recipients of the Fred Gray Award are attorney C.K. Hoffler, chair of Rainbow Push Coalition, and attorney Ben Crump, nationally recognized trial lawyer.
First, I'd like to thank Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr. and the Rainbow Push family for giving me this incredible award. I am so honored and humbled to receive an award that's in honor or named after the incomparable Fred Gray Sr. As we know, Fred Gray was Dr. King's attorney. Fred Gray was Rosa Parks' attorney. Fred Gray was the attorney for those victims of the syphilis experiment in Tuskegee. Fred Gray has desegregated, if you will, so many venues in Alabama. He has done so much by way of civil rights, and he's still working every single day. I had the pleasure of working with Fred Gray recently as counsel on a voting rights case that we filed in Georgia. It was led by National Bar Association members. We filed a lawsuit, and Rainbow Push Coalition was one of our clients, as was Transformative Justice Coalition, as was Black Voters Matter, as with Southwest Vote Registration and Voting Project. And we filed on behalf of the close to 200,000 disenfranchised voters in Georgia. This is before the Senate runoff election where Raphael Warnock and John Lossoff won those elections. So I've seen Fred Gray in practice. He is a past president of the National Bar, and I am now the immediate past president of the National Bar. So it gives me a great deal of honor, pleasure, and humility to accept this award. And I just want to thank Reverend Jackson again and our Rainbow Push family for giving me this honor. This is an honor of a lifetime.
I'm attorney Ben Crump, and I want to thank the Reverend Jesse Jackson and Rainbow Push for this great honor, the Fred Gray Legal Justice Award. It is so profound to me because not only is Jesse Jackson one of my great Omega Psi Phi fraternity brothers, but the prolific civil rights lawyer Fred Gray is a great Omega man representing Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks, and the Tuskegee Airmen. So I accept this award with great humility of being in the category of in any way with the great Fred Gray. Thank you so much for this honor.
John Lewis, icon of the civil rights movement and pursuer of justice, U.S. Representative John Lewis's legacy of fighting for the rights of Black voters lives on until this day as we witness a renewed attack on the voting rights of Black Americans. And the recipients of the John Lewis Voting Rights Award are attorney Barbara Arnwine, president and founder of the Transformative Justice Coalition, Reverend Dr. William Barber II, president and senior lecturer at Repairs of the Breach and co-chair of the Poor People's Campaign, and Stacey Abrams, founder of Fair Fight.
Hi, Rainbow Push family. I just want to extend my greatest thanks on this tremendous honor of receiving the John Lewis Voting Rights Champion Award. Please know that this award is accepted with grace and humility because we all know the champion is none other than Reverend Jesse Louis Jackson, who I've had the pleasure of getting arrested with no less than 3 times. We are committed to doing everything in our power to make sure that the proud tradition of our forebears, of our contemporaries, is lived up to in these times by passing the For the People Act, the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act, DC emissions, and the $15 minimum wage, because our democracy is under attack. Our people are suffering with unprecedented voter suppression. We must be active. I am honored to accept this award because I take it as a challenge to continue to do the work, to challenge the powers that be, like the U.S. Senate, like Chuck Schumer, like President Biden, to say, do your job, pass this critical legislation, protect the rights of all voters, let the Texas legislators be able to go home knowing that they have achieved their mission of preventing voter suppression. So with that said, again, my greatest thanks. I can't wait to see you all very soon. Many blessings. Let's get this done. Victory is ours.
Mary Frances Berry, historian, writer, lawyer, activist, and professor, whose work focuses on the preservation of Black and American history. It is important to record our history, as not to repeat it, but to learn from it and to grow stronger. And the recipients of the Mary Frances Berry Push for Excellence Award are Randy Weingarten, President of the American Federation of Teachers, Dr. Donna Leek, Vice Chair, Illinois State Board of Education, and Dr. Sonia Whitaker, Deputy Superintendent of Schools for Dalton West School District.
Hello, I am Dr. Sonia Whitaker, National Education Policy Director for Push for Excellence. Given all that I know about this great woman, Mary Frances Berry, it is with a great degree of humbleness that I would like to thank Reverend Jesse Jackson and the Rainbow Push Coalition for providing me with the distinct honor of being granted the Mary Frances Award. I thank you, Reverend Jackson, for your leadership and for recognizing in me the ability to follow your lead, while at the same time utilizing my God-given strengths and talents for the purpose of catapulting the mission and the vision of Push for Excellence to the next level. Thank you again.
Recipients of the Dr. Andrew Thomas Health Equity Award are Dr. Deborah Furholden, Associate Dean of Public Health Integration, Michigan State University, Dr. Leon McDougall, MD, President of the National Medical Association, and Sue Williams Ward, SEIU Healthcare posthumously Union and Community Leader in Indianapolis, Indiana.
Hello, Rainbow Push Coalition and Reverend Jesse L. Jackson Sr. Thank you so much for this special recognition during the 55th Annual International Virtual Conference beyond freedom to equality, leveling the playing field in the era of COVID-19. It wasn't too long ago that we collaborated in March of 2020 and in April published the Public Health Manifesto on COVID-19 that was well received locally, regionally, and nationally. In addition, I just want to give a shout out and acknowledge members of the Rainbow Push Coalition, including Reverend Janet Wilson, Reverend Todd Yeary, Santita Jackson. Thanks so much for inviting me to participate in both your syndicated program and also the Keep Hope Alive broadcast with Reverend Jesse L. Jackson Sr. You and Reverend Jackson make a wonderful team in putting out information that's valuable to the community. Also want to thank John Mitchell and his advocacy for the National Medical Association. I can remember with meeting with the president of the NCAA, Dr. Mark Emmert, and Rainbow Push advocated for National Medical Association participation on the NCAA Advisory Committee on COVID-19. And hey, I'm a member. Also want to thank C.K. Hoffler, Attorney Hoffler, and immediate past president of the National Bar Association. We make a very good team, and we try to do as much as we could during our joint terms as presidents. Also, Attorney Robert Patillo, and I do not want to forget Professor Deborah Furr Holden at Michigan State Flint, and also Dr. Adam Alam. And I also want to acknowledge Mr. Michael Peary, who connected me with the Rainbow Push Coalition, and it's been a wonderful collaboration ever since. So this collaboration has been a highlight of my 29-year career as a family physician. So thank you so much. Keep up the great work and have a wonderful conference.
Ora Lee Sanders, legendary educator and advocate for academic excellence. Her work is remembered through the Push Oratorical Program. And the recipient of the Ora Lee Sanders Oratorical Excellence Award is Judge Stanley Hill, Associate Judge on the Cook County Judicial Circuit Court, Director, Push Excel Oratorical Society.
Hello, Reverend Jackson, and to all my Push family and friends. It is surprising to think I have served at Push Excel for 11 years as Director of the Oratorical Society. I am forever thankful for my amazing committee and the hard work you've done training and encouraging youngsters in speaking skills that will last a lifetime. To Olivia Porter, my replacement as director, I am honored to have witnessed your development as a keen, intuitive professional. I can't wait to see how your vision takes the oratorical program to the next level. I am confident you can lead and continue to bring creative energy out of each and every child who participates. I'm glad to be retiring, but I will miss the spontaneity of the children and the generosity of committed colleagues. Thank you for the lovely gift and the joy of your friendship over the years. Blessings to all.
Reverend George E. Riddick. Reverend Riddick revolutionized corporate activism, being able to call on the world's largest companies to support Operation Push and its fight for justice. His work is still in effect and continues to benefit the fight for equality and justice. The recipient of the Reverend George E. Riddick Research in Justice Award is Nicole Turner Lee, Senior Fellow, Center for Technology Innovation, the Brookings Institution.
Thank you, Reverend Jackson of the Rainbow Push Coalition, for this distinguished George Riddick Research in Justice Award. Reverend, you started this when you actually exposed the lack of diversity in the tech and telecom industries. And I'm not going to stop, I'm cut from the same cloth until we close this digital divide.
I want to thank you for sewing into my scholarship and activism. And to Bishop Steve Smith, thank you for allowing me to partner with you at the Public Policy Institute here in Washington, D.C. Friends, we got a lot of work to do. And I am thankful to Rainbow Push Coalition and all the supporters, because we are not going to stop until we have everybody online versus in line in this new economy. Thank you again.
Reverend Addie Wyatt. The work of the famed Reverend Addie Wyatt cannot be praised enough, as she fought for the rights of union workers throughout the country, integral in the growth of the civil and workers' rights movement. And the recipient of the Addie Wyatt Labor Justice Award is Erica Bland Durosinami, Executive Vice President at SCIU HCII.
Good afternoon. It is an honor to accept this prestigious award. I am humbled for this gracious acknowledgement and also consider myself to be in good company to receive an award that is named after one of the foremost labor leaders in our nation, the Reverend Dr. Addie Wyatt. She was a pioneer who blazed a trail for social justice and rights for workers across the country. As a civil rights leader and activist, she was an example of what we can do and accomplish when we lift our voices and speak out. I'm proud to say that I walked the path that Reverend Dr. Wyatt paved for us. I'd like to remind us that it's a path we all must walk in this day and time where we are constantly facing attacks on our voting and civil rights. We must remain committed to moving forward because there is so much at stake. We must remain committed to attaining racial, social, and economic justice. In the past year, the inequities that are faced by workers and people of color have been laid bare by the pandemic, and we cannot let the powers that be turn a blind eye to what we all know. We need real systemic change in our country. Workers need unions, a voice on the job, and a path to a living wage. People need affordable housing, and our communities must be resourced equitably. Until these things are a reality, none of us will be free, and we must continue the fight. Our city and many across this country are deciding what to do with millions and billions of dollars in federal relief right now. We must make sure that it is used for what it is meant for, relief for working and non-working families. This means childcare so parents can return to work, direct cash payments to help families get back on their feet, and mental health services to support people who have needed them for so long, and the many more who have struggled as we have sheltered in place and dealt with the trauma of watching violence against Black bodies in our nation. I and SEIU Healthcare stand committed to this mission, bringing resources to those most in need. I'd like to accept this award in honor of the Black women who founded my union and were told they were only worth $1 an hour with no benefits, but believed in their power to fight for more. It is in their honor that I accept this award and continue to fight. Thank you to the Push Coalition for honoring me today.
Viola Liuzzo. She was and is the epitome of social justice. Being an activist during the height of the civil rights movement, her sacrifice for the rights of others to live equally is inspiring to all who fight for social equality. And the recipient of the Viola Liuzzo Social Justice Award is Donna Gutman, Executive Director and Founder, Women of the World.
Rainbow Push for this extraordinary honor, the Viola Liuzzo Award. She was a woman, a mother of 5, who left Detroit to become a civil rights activist in Selma and lost her life doing that. She was killed by Klansmen, and just for the simple act of ferrying people to the voting registration. I think we've all reached a crossroads now, and this is the bridge we can all cross together. And I stand on the shoulders of Viola, Liuzzo, and all the other women in my life and in Rainbow Push, because we have one mission, and that is justice. So thank you very much for this award. It's extraordinary.
On behalf of Reverend Jackson, in memory of Reverend Clay Evans, we are proud to present John P. Key with the Reverend Clay Evans Award. John P. Key is obviously a great musical artist, but he's receiving this award because of his action in the tradition of Reverend Evans, moving and acting and singing and serving in the area of social justice and human rights.
Hi, it's Pastor John P. Key here. First of all, let me thank the Right Reverend Jesse Jackson, who's been a very dear friend of mine for over 30 years. I also want to acknowledge that just to walk amongst such a legend as yourself, you have been a blessing to your people and to humanity. We appreciate you so much. To pause and to acknowledge what we do in our community, what I've done for the last 35 years in the Double Oaks community in Charlotte, I want to say thank you so much to everybody responsible, to the Rainbow Coalition. Thank you for allowing me to get my feet wet early on. Amen. I've been there to celebrate. So again, I thank you so, so much. And to Reverend Jackson, again, I thank you for being an inspiration and example to us all. I appreciate this award.
It's my honor and privilege to present an award winner for our Rainbow Push sports platform, who has been an advocate, a supporter, a partner, a sponsor, a continued presence with our platform in sports. And she continues to not only support Rainbow Push, but she has used her role, her responsibility, her position to influence great work in the NBA for 20 years as she continues to have voice and value add to everything she does as the president of social responsibility and player programs. Our Impact Award winner for Rainbow Push and for Rainbow Push Sports, Kathy Behrens.
Thank you so much. It's a great honor. I'm grateful that Rainbow Push is a partner for the NBAs and has been since before I got there. So to be able to work with such great partners, to be able to pick up the phone and get advice and guidance from Reverend Jackson, from Dr. Bryan, from John Mitchell, from other folks associated with Rainbow Push, it just makes my job so much easier. And it reminds us how important it is that we have great partners. And so I'm grateful for this award, but I'm really grateful that Rainbow Push is a partner of the NBAs, that we've been able to work together for decades. And that you guys continue to do the work that you do. It's never been more important to continue to drive these messages home of social equality, social impact, and equity. And so I'm grateful to be honored. I accept it on behalf of all of my colleagues at the NBA, and grateful really for the partnership and for the friendship that we've been able to have with Rainbow Push and obviously with Reverend Jackson, my friend. I thank you.
Good day. We're here gathered today to give out our international award. And because of the coronavirus pandemic, our annual conference this year will be virtual. And we're here today to honor two distinguished international diplomats that have served not only their countries, but also our community as a whole. Our first recipient is the Honorable Panzi Masabaka, who is the Consul General of South Africa, but based in Chicago here and representing about 14 Midwestern states. And since her tenure in Chicago here, she has worked closely with not only the the state she represented, but also with communities of color in terms of bridging the gap and also bringing South Africa and our community very close. She has worked tirelessly with the Rainbow Push Coalition in terms of assisting us and also collaborating with her country, has been a big part of our annual convention in terms of speaking and also hosting the South Africa delegation, which is usually the largest delegation, international delegation during our convention. But we honor her because of her outreach in terms of promoting diversity and also inclusion and connectivity between the United States and South Africa, and also keeping the flame of togetherness for those of us here and people like Reverend Jackson and other civil rights leaders who have fought tirelessly to end apartheid in South Africa. So we are honoring her with our International Service Award for this year.
Let me express my thanks on behalf of the Rainbow Push Coalition to South Africa for its role in having the most clearest voice, the most moral authority in the struggle to end apartheid and separation in America and in the world today. I was blessed to go to South Africa Council General in 1979, and with the Council of Churches, and I got in and I thought we easy in the country, cameras everywhere. They were, why are you here? I said, I'm here to visit friends. I was trying to say something kind of low and conservative. Why are you really here? I said, I'm here to visit churches. Why are you really here? I said, well, human rights for all human beings, measured by 1 yardstick. American comes in interfering. The idea of human rights for all was interfering. Ms. Mandela was suffering at that time in jail. I was with Mbeke and on the outside. We learned so much. One thing that stands in my mind the most is that one night we were crossroads, Gilbert, right? And children were sitting down on a tree. It was raining. There was mud on the ground. Learned to write mud letters. I said, anybody that determined to learn and to earn makes that free, would be free indeed. South Africa has a deep place in our hearts. Your role here has been just stellar. You come from great lineage of outstanding servants here. So Rainbow Push, on behalf of our organization, we want to thank you and give you an award tonight, this ceremony, because it's our way of staying in touch. We've been in touch with every president, since President Mandela, and South Africa as our frame of reference for decency and foreign policy. She has a sense of dignity, and you come from nowhere to run a country. Really, your influence is substantial in South Africa because you're on the tip. You know, where the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans come together, right? And really kiss the great trade route. So for all your work, you're a great country. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you so much,
Yeah.
John. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, man.
Thank you so much. Good day. Reverend Jackson, Reverend Wilson, Rainbow Push Coalition family, and my dear friend, Consul General Guillaume Le Crowd, I'm ever so humbled and grateful for this honor. It's overwhelming to be recognized and loved by your family, by people you admire, and people who have stood in the gap for South Africa in the past. I stand here as a young woman born and raised in Soweto, a township outside Johannesburg, South Africa, which has felt the strength of activism, global activism from anti-apartheid activists such as you, Reverend Jackson, who have been our voice when we were voiceless as people in South Africa, being crushed under the heavy yoke of apartheid. I am honored to have spent the last 4 years in Chicago working closely with Rainbow Push organization, not just in the community, highlighting important issues of education, educating our young people that as much as we are free, freedom comes at a price, and that struggle continues and evolves. And we have learned that from you. Thank you so much for being a book that we can continually read. We admire you and we love you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Let me say that we help South Africa, we help ourselves. You can't give without receiving. You can't take without losing. So you give. Your suffering is your badge of your weapon of choice. Suffering breeds character, character breeds faith, and then faith will prevail. You have in the lenses. I want to thank you and all of our friends in South Africa. I'll be coming home soon.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Our next honoree is the Honorable Guillaume Le Crowd, who is the Consul General of France to Chicago. And I've been working for the Rainbow Push for over 20 years. And this is the first time we have so much been engaged with France because of him. He's been out doing outreach. He represents about 13 states in the Midwest and has been all over the community, promoting culture, education, and even bringing the language of the French language into poor communities. And everywhere you turn on in social media, she's somewhere working with diverse people, trying to promote the culture between our two countries. And she worked with us on several issues, including expanding the French language to poor communities. And we're so grateful. And he is so accessible to all of us. And we're so grateful for his service to the country and also for helping bridge the gap between France and the United States, because these are countries that are very diverse with different cultures, but same history and stuff.
We're honored tonight to honor France. When we travel the world, France is central to our quest for peace. In World War II, when Hitler was on the rise and on the move, France suffered blows, not just the leadership, but the country itself. France has bounced back. It's as hard as tall as the Eiffel Tower. Well, it's based my thanks to President Macron, because this year I've been coming to France because we've been honored with the Legion's Award. When we were negotiating with Saddam Hussein in Iraq some years ago, we brought some people out of it. They were from France, they were from Britain, and America, and Canada. But in that global work, there's been no ally stronger than that of France. So I want to express my thanks to you and say hello. I'm coming soon. For the whole family, to all of my friends, poulet, poisson, chicken and fish, and the teacher I was taking French, she said, don't say I don't know, just say je ne sais pas. They say something in French. We thank you so very much.
Merci.
Merci beaucoup.
Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much, Reverend. It's overwhelming. I'm deeply honored to receive this award because I'm just trying to do my job, and it's and through me,
You're doing well.
I believe it is the country that I represent and also my team, but I see my job as a duty to be the friend of America, to be the friend of all America, not just one part of America. And we, the French, we owe so much to the American people for our freedom, for our independence, for our values. And America came to our rescue in 1917, and we are so grateful to all the soldiers of America. And I stress this one, to all the soldiers of America, including the soldiers who served in the French army because their own army was segregated. And we will never forget that. And we will never forget the sacrifice of the American soldiers who came in 1944. And again, my duty is to be the friend of America, but also to learn from America. And I think my country, France, and my continent, Europe, has a lot to learn as well from the America of today. We're watching you. We're watching your successes. We're watching your failures. And I think there is nothing more important than having a dialogue between our countries, between our people, between our cultures. It's an honor to be awarded because of education. I believe in the power of education. My two parents were teachers. It was the main asset we had, the love of the parents and the access to education. And I want to contribute my part in helping providing access to education to the children of America, and in particular the children of the south side of Chicago and elsewhere who need an access to world languages, including my language, French, that is the language of not just France, but of Europe, of Africa, of America, of the Caribbean, of the world. And we take a lot of pride in that. It's an honor to share the podium with my colleague from South Africa. I graduated from high school in 1989 when the wall of Berlin was about to fall and apartheid was about to be dismantled and eliminated. We have so much to learn from South Africa. The world needs to keep engaged with our South African friends. I love Africa. We are family, and it's such an honor to be here with my family. We love you. Thank you so much for having me.
Let me again express my thanks to the Council General of France being part of our convention this year. We are determined to be a global in our work and our impact. We come from different directions, but we end up at the same place. We need each other in new ways. The impact of COVID and the germ, a kind of germ warfare of sorts, has shown us that no matter how much money we budget for military and guns, one germ can shut everything down. So we learn from each other. We learn education as a value and learn science. And I'm going to express my thanks again to President Macron and the French leadership for giving us a chance to serve, a chance to share. We want from France is just a chance to share, to learn. And each African country we've been to has been on the move, because Paris didn't throw you out the window, just say, go get it. You have to teach. Thank you very much, sir. Congratulations on being an honoree of Rainbow Push Convention 2021. Virtually this year we see you face to face. You're the best at what you do. You made us better off. I want to thank you. I thank those persons who we named these awards, Reverend Evans and Reverend Barrow. These people made it happen. So you're in that tradition. We thank you very much and keep up alive. God bless you.
Ladies and gentlemen, our Rainbow Push family and all of the other organizations that are under the umbrella of Rainbow Push, we want to thank you for attending our 55th annual convention, which was the Rainbow Push Coalition 2021 annual convention. This was a virtual convention this year. And the one thing that we have learned and that COVID has taught us, it's a silver lining in the cloud, is that when we have virtual conventions, we're able to reach more people. It's so ironic that while COVID has shut down many countries, including various segments in the United States, it has opened up avenues of communication in other respects. So I want to thank you all for attending this conference virtually. I want to thank you all for being a part of really our 7 pillars of action. This has been a packed convention where we've discussed so many different things, but I'm just going to summarize for you, because as an organization that makes as its principal thrust and mission social justice and action for the least of these, whether it's in the United States or globally, we always come through our conventions and we have a plan of action. So let's talk about some of the areas that we covered. Well, fighting, one of the things that we've done, we fight for human rights, civil rights. That's one of the things that Rainbow Push has always done. Reverend Jesse Jackson, indeed, for the past 6 decades, has fought to restore the dignity of people through human rights, civil rights. And this has been across the globe, whether it was here in the United States or whether it was on the continent, within the diaspora, in Europe and otherwise. And proof positive of that was his receipt of the highest honor ever given to a civilian or a military person by the President of France or by the French government, the Legionnaire's Award. And that award is so significant. I had the honor and pleasure of attending the ceremony where he was given that award, that great honor. And in the words of President Macron, when they, and not his exact words, but this is what he said in essence, when they made the mold of Reverend Jackson, when they made that mold, there has really not been another mold. What he has done in this world for civil and human rights is incomparable. So this conference, when we focus on international global issues, it's within the spirit of the over 6 decades of work that Reverend Jackson has done and the incomparable work of Rainbow Push Coalition. Access to affordable health care for all Americans, and the push for us to support the COVID vaccines. And in this country, in Africa, in Haiti, in India, we have got to support a global policy where everyone has the access to vaccinations. Because if we are fully vaccinated in this country, in the United States, which we are not, but if we were, and people in Africa, people in Haiti, people in India, and throughout the globe are not fully vaccinated, we have merely compounded the problem. Justice for one is justice for all, ladies and gentlemen. So we must push in our respective communities and countries to push for equality in the distribution of the COVID vaccines. Fair and safe, affordable housing for those who live below the poverty limit. But for the working poor, this has been a thrust of Rainbow Push and Reverend Jackson and all the affiliated organizations from the inception. Indeed, when Reverend Jackson marched with Dr. King, this was something that they were marching for, and that fight has continued. We are about to face unprecedented numbers of homeless people in this country because of COVID, as a direct result of COVID. And if there is not a stay, a permanent stay, we know there's been a temporary one imposed by President Biden, of the moratorium. If there's not a moratorium on people's ability to, or inability really, to pay for housing, we're going to see a housing crisis, the likes of which this country has never seen. So we must fight for equality, especially for those below poverty and for the working poor. Voting rights. For all Americans, we have seen record numbers of voter suppression legislation passed since January of 2021. Remember, January 5th is when Senator Raphael Warnock and Senator John Ossoff won the Georgia runoff election. No sooner than that happened did we see the crisis, the attempted coup d'etat on January 6th. So we know there are forces at play that are fighting voter suppression. And by the way, that coup was designed to reestablish former President Donald Trump. And since then, there have been many, many states that have imposed voter suppression legislation. We've got to fight that, ladies and gentlemen. Rainbow Push is committed to it. Reverend Jackson's committed to it. Our partners throughout the country are committed to it as well. Transformative Justice Coalition, Miller Committee on Civil Rights. And we've got, for the first time, an incredibly talented Black woman who is the Assistant U.S. Attorney at the Justice Department for Civil Rights, Kristen Clark. What an amazing development that she is in that position. We must fight for voting rights for all Americans. Economic justice, corporate diversity, and access to capital. We've always fought for this. This is what the Wall Street Project at its inception and core was designed to do, to equalize, to give access to capital to all Americans, Black and brown communities. So we've got to continue that fight, ladies and gentlemen. And when we talk about implementation of federally mandated affirmative action and minority set-aside programs, we must push for this. In fact, that's the only way that many of us have access to capital, fairness, and equality. And then finally, educational equality. COVID has brought about really a delay in education for our young folks in this country, for those particularly who are in the public school system. If you don't have high-speed internet or access to a computer, you cannot learn in a virtual setting, not appropriately. And there are already enough challenges with virtual learning, but you certainly can't learn if you don't have that access. So the digital divide we must close, ladies and gentlemen. At Rainbow Push, we've always been proponents of education, equality, and equity. So we must not lose sight of that and must not lose sight of this generation of young folks who have just gone through a year and a half of virtual learning when they did not have the conditions with which to really learn virtually. So again, I want to thank you on behalf of Rainbow Push Coalition, thank you on behalf of our affiliated organizations, and thank you on behalf of the Reverend Jesse Louis Jackson Sr. He is our hero, he is our leader, he is our spokesperson, and each of us plays an important role, but we salute and we elevate, revere, and applaud our fearless leader, Reverend Jesse Louis Jackson Sr. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Todd Yeary, and I serve as the Chief Administrative Officer for the Rainbow Push Coalition and affiliates. I also work with a team of policy professionals in the Washington Bureau as Chief of Global Policy. This week, our founder and president, Reverend Jesse Jackson, has convened us to consider the state of civil and human rights across a number of important policy areas. This 55th annual international convention has focused on what it means to be free, but we have emphasized that more work must be done to move from being free to being equal. It is the continuing inequity that continues to plague us as a nation, whether we are talking about inequities in essential access to critical services in the middle of a pandemic, or the unrelenting assault on fundamental rights of every citizen to have uninhibited access to the ballot box, the foundational symbol of the democratic process and a Republican form of government. We have heard from key voices and prominent leaders in the fields of public health and healthcare, business, education, labor, international affairs, and public policy and politics. Their insights have helped us better understand how critical this moment in time truly is. But I want to lay out some important next steps that we should all take as we part company this week. First, we must remember that we are still in the fight for our very lives in the battle against COVID-19. While the conversation about vaccination continues, we see just how important a comprehensive public health strategy, like our Public Health Manifesto, that includes prevention, vaccination, testing, and addressing pre-existing health conditions is in winning the fight against COVID-19 and improving the health and quality of life of our communities. If you have not yet been vaccinated, we encourage you to have informed conversations with your healthcare provider about the vaccine and your health situation. We believe that everyone should be vaccinated, but we also respect the fact that the decision about whether to be vaccinated is a personal one. Make sure that it is an informed decision as well. As young people are preparing to return to school, we must also make sure that they too are safe. We know that there is not yet available a vaccine protocol for children under the age of 12. Therefore, we all must make sure that we continue the fundamental prevention actions to remain safe. Washing hands frequently, wearing masks when out amongst crowds and in public spaces, physically distancing when necessary, and staying home if we have any of the symptoms of infection or illness. Additionally, we must make sure that all children have the tools to be successful this school year. Namely, whether there is in-person, at-home, or hybrid instruction, we must ensure that there is equitable access to technology, broadband, support services, and other essential resources to ensure that our children thrive in spite of the pandemic and that we prevent the learning loss that has worsened during the pandemic. This means getting involved with your local PTA, attending Board of Education meetings, and most importantly, engaging with your child's teacher and principal. This same type of commitment is required for our higher education and job skills training environments. Everyone must have the opportunity to pursue an education that is high quality, safe, and provides the necessary supports for every student to be successful and competitive in the 21st century global marketplace. This pandemic doesn't have to take a toll on cultivating the genius of our children, and because of our collective efforts, it won't. As the wealth gap has widened during the pandemic, we must remain ever vigilant in demanding the resources that strengthen families and communities. This means ensuring that the eviction moratorium remains in place for whatever period of time is required to ensure that families are not displaced or put at risk because of financial difficulties. This means contacting our elected officials in Washington to demand that they not waver in protecting all families from public health harm and economic ruin during this pandemic. Also, we must ensure that the quality of housing for poor people meets the highest standards, not the lowest. As we have seen here in Chicago and across the nation, the Department of Housing and Urban Development has an important enforcement role in protecting the fair housing rights of persons who either rely on public support to be able to afford housing or are covered under the protections of the Fair Housing Act. From an economic development perspective, this means using the full capability of Section 3 of the Fair Housing Act to advance economic opportunity in impoverished areas. As the discussions around infrastructure needs continues and the Congress prepares to make significant investment in roads, bridges, and other physical infrastructure, this legislation must prioritize projects in areas where Section 3 applies and ensure that those who have been at the economic bottom for the longest have the opportunity for their economic boats to rise as a result of the infrastructure investment. To this end, the American Rescue Plan has provided $1.9 trillion in economic support, much of it to state and local governments. However, little has been said by any local or state government about how these funds will be equitably distributed to benefit all communities and not just some. All of us should call our mayors, county board officials, and governor's offices to demand an equity plan for the plan that has been developed to rescue all Americans and not just the entitled. We will be meeting with Chairwoman Maxine Waters of the Financial Services Committee of the House of Representatives and members of the Biden administration to ensure that these public dollars don't further private interest to the harm of those who need these resources most. Additionally, we must continue to demand that corporate boards, executive leadership, and supplier opportunities be diverse, equitable, and inclusive for all persons. This means creating pathways of participation for leadership candidates and ensuring that the opportunity formula includes targeted goals and carve-outs for diverse entities and diverse candidates. We will also be monitoring the EEO reports of corporations who are required to submit the data on diversity within their organizations and calling on the Treasury Department to be ever vigilant in its review of these reports. In international affairs, we recognize that this pandemic has hit African and Asian countries particularly hard as other parts of the world. Sub-Saharan Africa and India continue to need vaccine support and economic investment to remain vibrant in the midst of this global public health crisis. We must ensure that the developed nations assist with testing supplies, medical equipment support, and vaccine supply to be able to respond on the necessary scale to the coronavirus crisis around the world. We must also support efforts to advance development that raises the prospects and prosperity of the African continent. One example of this is the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, which will be a tremendous source of hydroelectric power in Ethiopia and the region. We call on the State Department to facilitate the dialogue to help move this important project toward completion so that those who have no basic electricity at all might benefit from this important resource. We cannot forget the ongoing need for police reform. We cannot continue to mourn the deaths of our loved ones and not honor their memories by demanding accountability for unlawful killings by police. This means passing the George Floyd Justice in Policing Act to include rescinding qualified immunity as essential cover for those who take innocent lives. We must also begin a state-by-state movement to raise the damages caps set in state laws that limit the economic damages that may be recovered from local governments when police officers violate the rights of persons. We will not continue to watch the taking of any lives, but we cannot stand by and watch Black and brown lives be treated as a financial calculation in local and state budgets, because state laws make police killings affordable by limiting the amount that families who have lost loved ones to police killing might recover, and then indemnifies bad officers by using public dollars to pay these economic damage awards. This is a travesty that must end today. Call your state legislators, your governors, and your members of Congress and tell them to take action at the federal and state levels to fix these problems that don't have to remain this way. Finally, we cannot forget just how important the right to vote is, and to fight with all that is within us to protect the right to vote, expand the access and the opportunity to be able to vote, and ensure that political gamesmanship cannot steal our vote, because the law protects the fundamental right to vote for everyone. We must continue to call, write, text, tweet, and post on our social media accounts our demand that the John Lewis Voting Rights Bill and the For the People Act bill be passed without delay and without excuse. While politicians play games with the process of passing laws, we must remember that the right to vote has only become what it is because we had to fight for access and opportunity to the ballot for everyone. Initially, only landowning white men could vote in this country. After decades of struggle, litigation, legislation, public agitation, and even a civil war, the right to vote is now enjoyed by Black people, women, poor people, people with no land, all because we have fought for the right to vote. Many of those who are fighting against the right to vote themselves would not have been eligible when the Constitution was ratified. Now is not the time for rewriting history or for political cowardice. We must fight in every state that is working to pass regressive voting rights laws. This means calling your state elected officials and your governors to tell them you demand an expansion of voting rights and not an erosion of voting rights. And we must all call on the Congress, especially the Senate and President Biden, to be public, to be persistent, and to be unwavering in the pursuit of the protected right to vote for all. This is the moment, and we shall not be denied. The most fundamental action you can take right now is to join this movement for freedom, equality, and justice. Join us as we work together to create a just society for everyone and not just for some. Go to rainbowpush.org or text PUSH, P-U-S-H, to 41444 and become a member of this work. There is strength in numbers, and we are better together than we are apart. Also, as Reverend Jackson continues to provide leadership in this moment by his presence and his voice is strengthened with an army of civil rights and social justice soldiers standing with him. That means you and me. When you go to rainbowpush.org, you can see the Rainbow Push Coalition reports, join the organization, stay current on the work we are doing, hear from Reverend Jackson about the critical issues of our time and how we should address them, and see our schedule of upcoming activities and events. There's a place for all of us in this movement, and there's a place for you here as a vital partner of the Rainbow Push Coalition. Thank you for joining us for the 55th Annual Rainbow Push Coalition International Convention. Share these session videos with everyone in your network and review them again when you are able. Most of all, stay focused on the things that matter, stay healthy in the midst of this ongoing pandemic, and remember to keep hope alive. Thank you.
We are sanctuary. We are a sanctuary.
When I think of Rainbow Push, I think of two words: social justice.
Education advocacy.
Political empowerment.
Freedom and equality.
Corporate partnership.
Stop the violence. Save the children. Don't get in. Shut it down. If we don't get in, shut it down.
Political change.
Inclusion, evolution.
Progress, justice.
Jesse Jackson.
Keep hope. Keep hope alive. Alive. Keep hope. Keep hope alive. Alive. I am.
want to be bridges to end these cultural gaps.
Going forward by hope, not backwards, by fear.